Welcome to
Hi,
the
everyone.
AusComX show. How are you, Sheydin?
I'm very well, Sis. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Excellent.
Today we are going to be talking with Dave Dye, but before that, I'm just going to boost my screen up. I almost press the remove button instead. I'm pressing the wrong button here. I'm doing a shout out to Shannon Browning for this awesome shirt that he designed, and I was lucky enough to get it before it went off the market. Well done, Shannon Browning.
Absolutely amazing. I love the crossover. It's Transformers
I'm not
and
wearing uniform tonight. I'm wearing Shannon Browning's shirt.
is it a crossover between Transformers and Ghostbusters, did you say?
Yes, Transformers and Ghostbusters. It's awesome.
So
I love
good.
it. Well done, Shannon. And anyway, so back to the schedule. We are talking to Dave. So let's get on with the show.
It is the man, the myth, the legend, Dave Dye. Thanks for being on the show.
Hey, Dave.
G'day, everybody. G'day, Sheydin. G'day, Sizzle.
How you been, mate?
Very good, thank you. Although it's a bit sticky here today.
Bit hot over
G'day,
there?
Danny. Yeah.
Hey, Dana.
Yeah. G'day, Dana. How are you? Yeah, it's a bit sticky. We've had some hot weather. It's been really hot down here in the Mallee, and like 42. We had a couple of days of 42, over 40 and that sort of thing. And now today it's rained. So it's humid and sticky, a bit like Queensland.
It's a bit weird weather, isn't it? Yeah. I think we've had very similar weather here in the Adelaide Hills as well. So
Yeah,
I'm with you there.
yeah.
That's for sure. To kick things off, you know the drill. Let's hear a little bit of your creative journey, Dave. Give us a little taste into the world of Dave.
All right. Well, Dave, I start like most people who are doing this sort of thing. I started drawing when I was a very young child, or I enjoyed drawing. And g'day, Speedsy, and had all my brothers and sisters. I got well, at the time I only had two sisters and a brother, so there's four of us kids knocking around. I was the youngest at that stage, and they were all better drawers than me. They could draw really good. G'day, Trev. And I used to try and keep up with them. So we'd sit around the kitchen table drawing from comics or books. The old dad had a heap of old books that we used to draw from. Always loved drawing. Oh, that's what I could show you. My mum, I did a painting at kindergarten, and when I brought it home, my mum said, "Oh, that's very good," and she framed it, and I've still got it.
Really?
Yeah. Would you like to see it? If you got a second, I'll show
Love
it.
to see it. I think everybody would love to see it. Get it. Yeah. For sure. Just for everyone to know, I was reading one of Dave's, which we will get into later, Beowulf, which is a part of his, I think it's his adventure series. Am I correct, Sis? Amazing Tales. Sorry.
Amazing Tales.
Yeah, so we'll get into that a little bit later. Anyway, Dave.
Let's boost you up. Oh, look at that.
The oldest.
So this was during kindergarten, was it?
Dye original art. That's a tree.
Nice.
That's a tree.
That's so amazing.
Yeah. Mum loved it, and she framed it, and she had that on the bedside table or on the chest of drawers for years and years. And I think the only, probably 4 or 5 years before she passed away, I think the frame got broken somehow or something. The glass was broken. So she took it down then. But that's how long she looked after that for me. And, I grabbed it when we went through her stuff after she passed away and that. So, yeah, that's that first time, that's very
How long
nice.
did you have that? Or how long did she have that?
Oh, well, I would have painted that in 1962. 63, something like that, when I was in kindergarten.
Wow,
that's amazing that you can still have it. You still have it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So That's the oldest piece of art that I've got of mine. Always been drawing and always loved drawing. And I went through various stages of what I wanted to do. G'day, Ben. Thanks, mate. And I wanted to be a fine art painter. I used to want to do painting, portrait painting, figure painting, and all that sort of thing. G'day, Dan. So I went to painting for a long time. So oil painting was my desire. G'day. And that's right. That was my main drive. Although, I want to be an illustrator too. I discovered Norman Lindsay when I was in my teens, and of course he's got a lot of naked women in his drawings and paintings, so that was quite inspiring to a teenager. But it wasn't just the figures, it was his penmanship that I really fell in love with. This is the style of, this is not Norman Lindsay's, but this sort of thing, that's Frank Dunn. And see that hatching that he does, that sort of stuff is what really turns me on. That's Stan Cross. These are Australian pen and ink artists, cartoonists.
Amazing.
This is the sort of thing that really got me going. And that's what I wanted to do. I want to be a book illustrator. But, things change. I went farming when I left school, and I loved that life. I really enjoyed being a farm labourer. And so I still did a little bit of drawing and painting on the side then, but not as much. And signed up for a couple of correspondence courses you could do a draw. They'd send you a list of things you had to draw. And I'd draw them and send them off, and they'd mark them and they'd send it back. It was all by post. Didn't have internet or anything like that in those days. I was on the farm, so I'd get these and I'd just do it on the weekend. I'd do a drawing and send it off. So that was good, and then it helped me a lot with my perspective and things like that, because they were good little instructions, because we had to draw a wheelbarrow or a room or a vase, or just the plain old stuff that you never want to do. But if you want to draw and you want to get better, you've got to do it.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So you said that you used to draw from comics with your siblings. Am I correct? Before, what kind of comics were you and your siblings inspired by?
We were reading mostly Uncle Scrooge and Donald Duck, but we did go a bit crazy when Alex Major's favourite movie came out, Jungle Book #1, in 1967 or 68. That came out, I think. We loved it. We went to the drive-in and watched that, and I bought the comic book, and I've still got that over there in one of my boxes. It's not in the corner, sorry. Pull that one out. But my Rose is my older sister. I've got two older sisters. Kate is the eldest. Rose was 2 years older than me. Kate's 6 years older than me. But Rose and I really loved the Jungle Book. And Rose made this, what they call a mobile. Do you know what a mobile is?
Yeah. So is it kind of like a diorama kind of thing, or
it hangs?
Or is it hanging off
a bit of, yeah, hangs, and the wind blows it and it turns around. And so she had Shere Khan, Baloo, Bagheera, Mowgli, all them. She'd drawn them all. She had to draw them twice backwards and that, and she stuck them together, coloured them all in, and she had that hanging up in her room. And I was drawing Shere Khan and Mowgli and Baloo, and we were just right into that, and we loved it. So that would have been the first comic book that I really got stuck into drawing.
That is fantastic. That's awesome. That's so cool that you've got all that kind of inspiration from such a young age as well, and people to have done it with and grow with. So that's awesome.
Well, that's right. Maybe if I didn't have my sister there, my sisters and brother there to encourage me. Who knows what else I want to do? Because we used to play a lot of sport in those days. I played footy and cricket and all that sort of stuff, ran around the town like a mad kid, like everyone does. I could easily just gone off, and if I didn't have brothers and sisters, I might have gone and played with me mates, and none of them did much drawing or anything. So it could have been a different story.
It was a happy accident. That's what it is.
Yeah.
An accident we're all very grateful for, I'm sure. So you've talked a little bit about your past and whatnot. Can you tell us a little bit of your projects, both past, present, and maybe future that you might have going on at the moment?
Well, we won't talk about past at the moment, because unless we want to talk about Beowulf.
I will be touching on Beowulf, if that's all right.
Okay. Well, I'll talk about present. I'm working on something for Spedsy at the moment for Vamoose number 4, is it? And I'm working on that. I've just, previous to that, I did a short story for Peter Lane for Sky's Cavern Library. And previous to that, I did another short story for our old mate Quick Nick Cleary for his what's it called, the aerial one, one with all the flyboys, is it?
Yes. Oh, now I've forgotten.
If you're watching, quick, put it up, mate.
Quick Nick.
Yeah.
Where are you when we need you?
So anyway, yeah, so I've done that one. So I've had, a few previous. I'm working on the Vamoose one now, and I've got a couple to do after that as well. So, there's a Rick McClune script I have that needs to be started. So I'll be getting into that as soon as I finish this. That'll be for a full comic.
Oh my God. Well, you like to keep yourself busy then, don't you?
Yes. Well, that's the good thing. I'm lucky because I can work on it full time. I've done my professional working. My working life is pretty much over. I was a farmhand to start with, and I joined the army, and I did that for 28 years. I got out of that and retired at a ripe early age of 52 or something like that. I can't remember. I was quite young, and I retired. I had a good enough pension. I had my car. I just had to pay off a house and all that sort of stuff. So, so anyway, that's why I didn't do a lot of comic. I never had really a comic career or a professional art career outside the army until I was in my early 50s. You got people like Gary Challoner and Tim McEwen and Tad Petikowski and Petakovsky and Dave DeVries and all that. They were putting out their comics when they were young. They were doing that on the side. Well, I wasn't doing. I was just concentrating. I was just doing other stuff. I wasn't thinking about that. But now that I've retired, I can spend 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day if I want, working on my comics. G'day,
I think that's super inspiring, though, that you didn't start full time into your comic career until a later age. I think we need more stories like that. So I think that's super inspiring, Dave. Hey, Nick.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, g'day, Nick. Yeah, that's right. Well, it's to my advantage. Well, in a way, it's to my advantage, but it's also harder because I've got a dicky old back. My hands are a bit arthritic and not much good. My hip gets sore. I've got old man's aches and pains that I have to put up with, which you don't have to put up with so much when you're younger. So,
But you do have a wealth of knowledge that some of us youngins do not. So I think that's definitely to your advantage. Can you tell a few of our viewers tonight a little bit of some of your own books that you've published, just so that they know, like Beowulf and such?
Okay, well, we'll start with the first thing I did when I got out of the army. This was the first one I did, the Anzac Legend. It was in is in a landscape format to start with. I think it's back on the other thing, but so this was this is the sort of thing. This was my style. This comes from my desire to be like those artists that I showed you before, Stan Cross, and Norman Lindsay. The old, a lot of hatching and stuff in there, and that's stuck with me. That's why I draw a lot of that stuff the way that I do. I did that as soon as I got out of the army. This book here, I actually started this one when I was in the army, and this was drawn. This is Code of Honor, another war story.
Amazing.
This is a 100-page graphic novel that went through many rewrites and reiterations. Get on your chair. And I finally got to the stage where I was happy with it. I think it went through about 4 different rewrites. So I finally got that one together, and I had to print it, colorize it very quickly and get it printed, because I was going to a comic convention. I'd been working on other stuff through the year, and when you go to a convention, like the beginning of the year, I like to have something new to show to sell when I go. And I didn't have anything because I'd been doing other projects for other people, and for that year pretty well. And as a result, I thought, what have I got to do? So I found that, dug it up, went through it quickly and rescanned, rewrote it, and changed a lot of the text, added a few panels and got rid of 1 or 2 other ones, and colorized it. I did, I think at one stage I did about 10 pages in one day of color. I was just pumping it through, and you can probably tell when you look at it, but don't worry about that. That was that done. The reason it was so I was so busy, one of the reasons was I was working on this book. Now I was approached by Hugh Dolan. He saw the Anzac Legend. He says, Dave, can you do a story for me in the same style? So that's 60 something pages of the story of the battle of, or the siege at Eureka, or the Eureka Stockade incident at Ballarat during the gold rush. So that was what held me up, I think, that year. But that was fun to draw, and informative, and it's good. It's always fun to draw. Whatever you're drawing is fun.
Can't agree more. That's amazing. So you've got quite a plethora of work that you've done yourself. I think I really wanted to touch on Beowulf, especially as I read Beowulf and Grendel, as well as Beowulf and the Dragon, which I absolutely loved. And I completely understand where you come from. The hatching and the penmanship in your work, which Sis has got. I think, what was the artist that you mentioned before with the hatching?
Norman Lindsay was the initial inspiration.
Yeah. He because he really shows up. Yeah. He really shows up in your work a lot, and I definitely saw that with Beowulf, and I was very, very impressed by your penmanship. It was really, really amazing.
Thank you very much.
Always amazed. Whenever you're on Drink and Draw, I think a lot of people are in the same boat as me. They're absolutely mesmerized by your work. So I think
I've done other work with like Roger Stinson. I did the Time Fault, and that's a similar sort of, it's black and white, but I've did a lot more brush work with this one, so to change it. So it's a little bit different, but you still got these details.
That house is amazing.
Yeah, pen and ink stuff there. And I do, people have said, when I've got my comics reviewed, they've said, your black and white stuff seems a lot better than your colour stuff, which suits me fine, because I hate colouring the bloody things. I'm quite much happier doing the line work. But this is the next Anzac Legend, a smaller edition of it. So it's got all a similar sort of style for that sort of stuff, I think. But yeah, Beowulf, still doing it. Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Breathtaking, Dave. Absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So
there's a lot of really good black and white artists, that are around now. You've got Beau Jardine, who just poked his head in a second ago before. Lee Chalker's, his black and white stuff is great. Ryan Vella, fantastic. A lot of great people still pumping out good black and white art for the comics now. And a black and white comic, just because it hasn't got colour doesn't mean it's second class. It can still be a good comic.
Yes, absolutely.
Of course, Duncan Prenovicius with his bin kitty, and
shout out to Duncan.
Hmm.
I just wanted to touch a little bit briefly on the Legend of Anzac, or I think it was Anzac Legend. Sorry. Now I heard that you won an award for that. Am I right?
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that?
I got the AusComX. I have to read it. Winner of the 2014 Comic Oz Best Australian Original Comic Book Award. So that was in 2014.
Absolutely amazing. And so when was that published?
2014.
2000, it's the same year. Amazing.
I had to get it out by, I wanted to get it out by Anzac Day 2014. So I was really rushing to get it done. Even though they didn't land till the year, a year later. But anyway, that was just what you got to set yourself a bit of a deadline. I was working something like, I'd work probably 20 days straight on this every day. I was working all day, and then I just had to have a rest. I'd stop. You work like that, you wear yourself out, so you have to have a rest for a week or something after that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then you get back into it.
This
was a job that when I started, I wasn't going to put it aside and let it rest. I had to get it finished. I was determined to finish it because I didn't want it to be something sitting in the shed 3 years later, half finished, and thinking, I'll have to do that, get finished that one day. No. So I just stuck with it. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. So would you say that's the fastest you've ever completed a comic? Would that be fair to say?
No. Probably that Eureka book was the one that one was hammering it, because the other one took me 4 years to do. The other one, the Anzac Legend, it was 200 and something pages. This is 60 odd pages, but because we had a professional editor and all that working on it, g'day puss, it had to go back and forward to them, and suddenly the deadline changed or something like that, or they were late at getting back to me. Like, I was keeping up with my deadlines, but I sent it to them, and they must have put it on the intro and forgot about it for a week or two, and I'm waiting for the feedback to come back, to get on with what's got to be done. And so at the end, I was inking 3 pages a day. I had it drawn. And I had to get up in the morning. I'd ink a page before lunch, then start another page and finish inking it by tea time. And then after tea, I'd do another page before I went to bed, then get up the next day and do it again. So that was for probably the last half of that book.
Yeah.
So
what a full schedule.
Really put and that's what happens when you work professionally for a real company. You got to deliver. You can't muck around. So you put yourself. So I'm happy to work for myself. I can get up now. No, watch a bit more telly, or I'll go out for a walk and then come back and do it. That's much better. Much more.
That's amazing. No, good on you. So you've definitely been very busy over the years and whatnot, making many different projects happen. No, good on you. So we talked a little bit about your biggest inspirations. Can you delve more into some of the artistic inspirations that have you come across maybe recently, or any ones that you hadn't listed previously?
Well, I get inspiration from anyone, really. You know, I was looking at your book today. I was looking at this today, and I was thinking, wow, you know, Sheydin can really, you've got some really good drawings in there, and the different angles that you've drawn your figures at, like that, you know, this is inspiring. So really, anyone can I can get inspiration from, you know, everyone.
Yeah,
so,
nice.
You know, definitely, this should inspire people. This is a great book. So
this show's about you, Dave.
that is true. And I get inspiration from lots of artists, you know, I watched Lee Chalker's show with Hayden Sparrow last night, and I don't know if I am inspired by writers so much. You know, I do write. That's what these books are written by me, but a lot of them. But I don't know if I'm inspired. I think it's just the way I tell a story is how these are. I don't think there's any particular writer that I look at and go, you know, I want to write like Alan Moore or Chris Claremont or someone like that. Well, actually, Chris Claremont, I think he's one that writes a lot of, I think I've seen he's got a lot of word balloons. So I definitely don't want to write like that. And what's his name? Not Bing Lee. He's the bloke who ran Marvel, big top boss cocky. He died a year or two ago.
Stan Lee.
Stanley. Yeah, I don't want to write like him because I read some of his comics and they're just so verbose, you know, too much. I like to keep it, you know, minimum if I can.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Yeah, for sure. I think even reading Beowulf, it was so easy to read, and it was just, you went straight into the story, and it was like sharp, straight to the point, and I think it was just really easy to digest, and I really, really appreciated that. So
right.
that's a big honor to you. So yeah.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, well, thank you for blessing us with such amazing stories, Dave. I think I could listen to your stories all day.
You're better.
But I do remember you saying, so you did serve in the army and you were a farm hand as well. Were these types of roles that maybe inspired you to create comics? I do understand that you did an army-related comic. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it inspired me to do comics, but it's something I draw on when I do my comics. My comics are pretty much based on the things that I like to do. And, you know, I like Australian history, Australian country life, and the army, and art. So they're probably the three things that I like, you know, over my lifetime. When I was a little kid, I wanted to go drive tractors, and I like working with sheep and cattle and all that sort of digging holes. I like being outside, working outside. So I wanted to be a farmer. I've always liked drawing. I've always liked painting and that sort of thing. Artistic. I've always been in that sort of mind space. And I've always had an interest in military things. And it turns out later on, I didn't really, you know, we used to get told your great-grandfather was in the Crimean War. And it was. He was a hussar in the Crimean War. And
there you go.
One of his son, my grandfather's uncle died in the Boer War. And my grandfather was in World War One, and my mother's uncles were in World War One. My uncle was in World War Two. So we've had a long association with military stuff. So whether it's in the blood, I don't know. But I was always sort of going to be a soldier, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's good that you've got that history to kind of draw upon in your own stories. So I think that's definitely a huge thing to also draw attention to, I should say, with your Amazing Tales. Was it? I think you did.
Yeah, Amazing Tales. A lot of the stories in there in Amazing Tales. So when I first started doing Amazing Tales, the first one I put out, this was just after I finished this book. I had to have a break because that was a hard slog. There was a lot of research involved with that, and it was hard. It was a lot of work. So I wanted to do something more relaxing. So I just did all these fiction stories. There's 4 fiction stories in there. 2 are set in the Australian outback. One set in outer space, the Dropship 15 crew, and another's set in the Vietnam during the Vietnam War. So that's the 4 stories in there. So they're touching on all the things that I'm interested in. I don't mind space. I like Aliens and all that sort of that movie when it came out, and science fiction. The genre I like.
Yeah.
So,
Amazing.
Never had an interest in being an astronaut or anything like that, though. But that was one thing I didn't have. But Roger Stetson has pointed out to me that my science fiction stories or my space stories, they're not really much to do with space. They're just war stories or soldier stories in space. They're not. And I've said a number of times that I'm not smart enough to do science fiction, so I just do what I know, and I know Army, so I'd put that in
there. No, I think that's great. I guess I really wanted to touch on, while we're on the subject, what kind of inspired you specifically with Beowulf? I know that you do write a little section beforehand of, was it written in 1912? Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
This book here.
Yes.
The Teutonic Legends.
Yeah.
Teutonic Myths and Legends. I bought that book. It was probably $3 or $4 or $5, and I read that, and I just got right into it. It really got into my head. I didn't know anything much about Thor and Odin and all that, but it also goes later to Tristan and Isolde, which is later in more, probably Dark Ages type of Europe. So it just isn't the ancient things. It goes a lot more covered in here. And they're all very interesting stories. But when I read that, I was doing a TAFE course part-time. A lot of the stories I was reading in this was coming out in my sketchbooks, and I was doing paintings. This painting here.
Yes, that features in one of the intros to Beowulf. Yeah.
That's on the inside cover. So that's a painting I did back in 2001 or something, that was when I was interested in, I first started reading this sort of stuff when I was doing the course. And I've got sketchbooks somewhere. I bought them out somewhere. I put them somewhere. I can't. Oh, here they are, up in the portal. When you know it.
I love how you pull things out of the so-called portal for all our viewers. That's Dave's portal. He just brings everything and anything from behind the screen.
So that's you can see a sketch there of that painting. That's a gouache of Grendel approaching the Hera in the middle of the night. So that was done in, I haven't got a date on that page. But anyway, but that was 2001, I think. And, there's more sketches. My old sketchbook, this was probably done for a painting I was thinking of doing for my TAFE course.
Amazing.
So,
Wow.
So there's the random all through, scattered throughout the sketchbooks I've got, there's those things those sketches and drawings I've sort of on my mind. So yeah,
I absolutely love how you render your faces, Dave. I think you've done such an amazing job with your expressions and whatnot.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, that's something I do strive for, and I do have one of these here, a mirror.
Yes, I must.
Pull
And any
funny
others.
faces, that sort of stuff. Draw it. And that's something I've found that sometimes you've got to act out when you're stuck and you can't draw something. You've got to get a mirror and look at you and think about, okay, put yourself in that mind frame and pull that face. Might be, lost for thought. So, and then quickly sketch that down with the mirror. Or sometimes you might have to act out swinging a sword or, something like that. So you've got to actually get up off your chair and go through the action and visualize yourself in that position and get it down. That's how you sort of nail some of those poses. Pete.
Look at that.
Good.
Already drawn inspiration, Dave.
That's awesome.
Good, mate. Yeah. I noticed I think it was on Peter Wilson's show the other night. He asks what makes a creative person, and my answer to that is I think everyone's creative. I think everyone is creative, but it's in different ways. Now, some people are creative. My wife's very creative in the kitchen cooking. She's a brilliant cook, and she creates beautiful dishes. Some fellas and ladies like to pick up a spanner and work on their car, and they're very good at mechanical stuff and doing stuff. Other people make things out of wood, crochet, knit, sew. Everyone's got a hobby, and I think everyone's creative. And it's just so I think it's just developing whatever you're interested in will make you better, and you'll stick at it. If you enjoy doing it, you'll keep doing it.
Absolutely. You said that well, Dave. You said that very well. Yes. I just really wanted to ask, when you were talking about the origin of Beowulf, what really grabbed you in that novel that you're reading? What really made you want to write specifically about Beowulf?
I think he's a pretty all-round sort of, he's a big, strong, tough Conan type character. He's a braggart, which is something which I don't like braggarts. I hope I don't come across as a braggart, but I don't like braggarts, and he is a braggart, and that's part of the character of that made someone back in the old days. We're talking ancient days. That's what you had to be if you were going to be king of a race or run the tribe. You had to back it up too, of course, and he could back it up.
He certainly did, that's for sure.
Yeah, and he's strong. He's got, they're good stories. In the Thor stories, the Thor ones are quite good because there's a bit of humour in there. There's one episode where I can't remember, the giant's sleeping and Thor sneaks up to hit him on the head while he's asleep and kill him, knock him out, take him out of the game, and he keeps cracking this with his hammer as hard as he can. And this giant's just asleep there, not worrying about it. And Thor's just going crazy. But little does he know, he's been hexed a little bit by someone, I can't remember who. It's a long time since I read it. And he's hitting a big rock. He's missing the head, and he's hitting a rock. So, there's bits of humour through these as well. And that's what I try and put in my stories. These stories, I always try and put a bit of drama, a bit of action, and humour. I think humour is, a key attribute to a good story.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but when I was reading Beowulf, I was a little saddened, and I think that was really good that you conveyed that emotion because I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting to read a big burly man and his adventure, and he's got a sword and he slays and he's and then at the end I was like, oh, really actually a real heartwarming story, especially at the end of Beowulf and the Dragon. I recommend to read to all of you.
Well, it's nice to have that, hear that bit of feedback from you about that, because
I was really connected with Beowulf, and then
that's good, because when I think a lot of us, when we create these things, you don't know what people are going to say, and you think, oh, what are they going to say tonight? I know you wouldn't be rude or anything like that to me, but what are you really thinking? We've got to say something nice about this horrible comic we just read. Oh, God, what are we going to say, Shiz?
Nothing but the best for you, Dave, honestly. No one's got anything bad to say about you, only praise, so you're fine.
Thank you. But it's just natural. I think we all go through that as creators when we create something that we feel, is it good enough? Will people like it? I'm a bit unsure about this bit that I did, and maybe people will hate that and they'll hate the whole thing. And so it's nice just to get a bit of positive feedback. So thanks very much.
Not a problem at all. Absolutely. That's really awesome to know exactly where Beowulf kind of originated from. But I really want to kind of delve into a little bit more of your techniques and your process of how you actually go about your comics. I know some of our viewers and some of the people in the comics community kind of work digitally, myself included. So I was wondering if you could shed a little bit of light on how you created specifically Beowulf, which is our theme of tonight, and shed a little bit of light of how you worked over the last over your comic career, I should say, because I think the traditional world is definitely interesting, and something that I would really like to learn more about is your creative process. So
right.
Let us hear
it. With Beowulf, because I had to write it first, so I will go back to that stage if you like. Now I had to read it. I haven't read this story for 20 odd years, so I had to reread it all. And when I did that, I read it again, and then I took notes, because this is going to be based on the legend, and it wasn't just going to be Beowulf's name and a story that I made up. This is going to be the legend. So basically, what you're reading in this is a picturized version of this, okay, but shortened down. Now so that's what I did. So after I've written that down and the notes of what happens, it goes for I don't know, a few pages. Where is it? I had it here. I was going to show you.
This is appeared into your portal.
No, the portal isn't there. This one, no. Where is it? It's underneath all the books and that I've got down here. Get on you, Julian. Yeah, thanks. So once I've done that, I break it down into. Oh, you can't really see that. I write it out again, and this is for another story. I can't find the Beowulf one, but it's the same process. I write it out, and then I break it down. All these points I derive from those notes that I made, and they'll be what I need to put in. And some of those points will be in. Will take up a complete panel, and in some of those points there might be 2 or 3 of those points make up another panel. So I just read through it and work out the pacing of the story, and in doing that I work out, you can see here on this particular story there's a line which delineates what this is all going to be one page, then these points down to the next line, that's the next page. So once I've done that, that's worked out the content for that page. Then you probably can't see this because this is the actual Beowulf and Grendel outline. I've done it very small, but these are the pages thumbnailed.
Oh, yeah.
So that's them thumbnailed. And that's that's got the whole 24 pages of the story there done. in thumbnails. On other stories, like this is the bushfire story in Amazing Tales number 5, they're bigger thumbnails. They're bigger, more like a draft. But I did it a bit different for the Beowulf and Grendel story. So that's the layout. Then I'll get my Bristol board, Bristol paper, and put it on the. I've started drawing over on my drawing table now, but so I haven't got my drawing table. But you've seen it on Drink and Draw, my drawing table, my slab, whatever it is, drawing board. Rule up my panels and just start penciling. I pencil with a blue line mostly these days, and put the text in. All my stuff's over there now, but you've seen most of it before. I've got a Ames ruling guide. I hand letter all my lettering. I like to hand letter because, you know, people like, I understand it. People like computerized lettering because it is neater. It is very neat. But I can look at some of my lettering in these books and go, well, you know, that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. That's not bad. Oh, that one's a bit rough, but okay. But, you know, you get your good and your bad, but it's something I enjoy doing. I really enjoy lettering.
And I think it brings a lot more character into your the text in the book, because it's not like stock standard. It's, you know, it is hand done, and you can see a lot of the character that comes through. That was one of my questions, was whether or not you did your lettering by hand or not. So that's awesome.
Yeah. For that
quickly,
reason,
one sec, I just have to let my cat out, or else he's going to be meowing the entirety of the
show.
Yeah, Dave, this was a great read.
I enjoyed it, did you, mate?
Yeah. I enjoyed it very much.
Oh, did you? Yeah, fantastic.
I keep wanting to talk about bits of the story, which I probably shouldn't do because it will spoil it. But yeah.
No, well, look, I know a lot of people don't like to talk about, but I'm happy if you want to talk about the any section, you know, where Beowulf has to dive into the lake or the swamp and go down and hunt down the Grendel's mother. You know, who would have? And he's fighting her, and look, he's got to. All her sea demons have come to help her fight Beowulf. And what are her sea demons? There's a seal, there's a turtle. You know, that's what they are. You know, well, that's my imagination of them. But that's what I thought. Oh, what would they be? They might be lizards or, you know, whatever, something. Not dragons. I didn't do that. That's in the next story.
I'm so glad you pulled up onto that scene, because that was one of the scenes that I was most impressed by. I guess it was because it was so like contrasting to the rest of the story. You know, everything's like more white than black, and then all of a sudden he dives down and everything's changed. I thought it was really, really fantastic, and you shed a lot of contrast onto that.
Well, with that particular drawing, I had to do a bit of digital work there, because if you have a look at that, you see Grendel's mother is here at the bottom. Where is it? Here. That's her there under my finger. That's her. And there's Beowulf up here where my other finger is. Can you see it up there?
Yes, yeah. We see him.
Yep.
In that panel. He's coming down. But initially I drew her too small. And what I did, actually, I did it in in Clip Studio Paint. I cut her out and made her bigger and stretched her bigger. So I cheated in Studio Paint. So there you go.
Oh, nice.
So I'm not perfect on the things. I could have widened it out and redrawn it, but I got lazy and I thought it'd be quicker to do it that way.
Well, we were none the wiser, so you fooled us well. Also, I did notice that you had a little bit of like a half tone in some of your illustrations. Is that also digitally added in?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. It's something I discovered that when I did the Rick McLean. I'd never done that. I always wanted to know how to put it in, and I'd seen people put it in their stuff. And how do you do that? So I got on the Google and found out how to do it, and I just reckon that's great. That duo shade, or what do you call it? What did you call it?
Half tone.
Half tone, yeah. Print, yeah. Screen.
Yeah. Because I recently actually bought adhesive screen tone, halftone. I got it from a little dollar store, like Daiso, if anybody's familiar, where you actually have to cut it out to the shape that you want it. So you do your artwork by hand, and then you section off an area that you want shaded. But I'm a super fan of halftone. Anything in like an illustration with halftone, I'm in. So it was a really pleasant surprise to see it in your work. So yeah, I think that was awesome. It's good to know that you're very versatile in how you work. So I think that's a plus for you. So yeah,
necessity. I think I do like to use a pen and brush. I often use a brush when I ink. I don't just ink with a nib all the time. That's the nib, yeah. But some, I often use a brush as well. So Indian ink, I like good waterproof Indian ink is what the ink I use. So, yeah.
I think we could all learn so much from you, especially traditionally wise. So it's been really nice to delve into your process, your creative process. So, but yeah, I really want to delve in. Another question for you is maybe what is one of your most proudest moments that you've had in your creative career? Do you have one, or do you have many?
Well, I don't know. I've been lucky a few times. I got that award from Nat Carmichael at Comic Oz. He's a great supporter of Australian comics, great fella. I did get asked to exhibit my comic work at the Polish, was it Poland, comic and gaming exhibition a couple of years ago in Lodz. It's the biggest. I can't remember the name of the bloke who set me up for that, but he's a nice fella, and he's done it since with other people. So there's a few people got invited to be in that, and I'm a bit embarrassed that I can't name the convention or the exhibition properly. But that was, it's always nice when people think that you're good enough to contribute to something like that. And of course, always thrilled when people buy my stuff. It thrills me always, and especially when you get a returning customer who's bought something and they come back the next year and say, I bought that one, I want to buy the next one, what do you got? And that's the I think that's why a lot of us do it. If you got that a few people that come back and keep buying your stuff, that's as good as earning $100 a copy.
Absolutely. I agree.
I know, but it's good when, and also another thing is when people, I've had people like the Hugh Dolan, he asked me to work on this book because he'd seen my Anzac book. So that's affirmation of what I did with the Anzac book. And I've had a lot of good feedback about the Anzac book, great feedback on that, as well as I get good feedback on my comics as well. So I'm pretty lucky, very fortunate to have, nice fans or nice people that read them.
I think the comics community especially is just such a wonderful community to be a part of. I know myself, I'm very honoured to be a part of it. So kudos to Shane in the corner there. I think he's done amazing. He's done a good job to connect us all. Another question that I had was to kind of feed off that one was like, I know you've done you've got many different works in your portfolio. What was your favorite comic to work on out of the ones we've just discussed?
Well, I don't know if I've got a favorite.
Are they all your favorite?
Yeah. There's, I don't know if I don't think I've got a favorite. I think that's my good luck, is that I've always been able to do what I like to do, and because I like to draw, I draw what I like to do. And I've had, people have given me scripts and that I've read, and they've been great to illustrate and do, and people actually paid me good money, to do a story for them, and I've been very fortunate to receive, good money for my services, and I'm happy to do that all the time. But today I've just struggled a bit. I don't know if it's the weather or what, but I haven't done much work today because I've just felt a bit icky. It might be the humidity or something. I don't know, but it's a bit frustrating when you can't work. And you've got a story there, it's all penciled, and I've done most of the outlying ink, and I've got to go back and drop in the blacks, the blacks, and all that sort of stuff. And I just couldn't get my head into it. And I did a little bit and smeared the ink across the page with the thing, and I'm going, oh, blimey. Today wasn't the day. I wish I had just stayed not worried about it at all. But anyway.
Well, considering your comic career and how busy you've been and how productive you've been over XYZ amount of years, I think you're welcome to have a day off here and there. I think you're good share,
yeah. I should have been smarter and recognised that, when I smudged that ink, I should have just said, okay, that's it. I'm not doing anymore. Just stop it. You're going to make a mess of things. And sat down. And I did pretty much. Didn't do much after that. I worked till about lunchtime, and then this afternoon I just did other things. I've got other little projects I've got to do that aren't related to drawing, and so I got on with those. Yeah. So it's probably the best thing to do, I think. But, I think everyone, you sort of have your days when things don't just seem to, you can't draw a stick figure. Rub it out.
That's me every day, Dave.
You just can't get it right. You're trying to put a nose on a face, or you just can't get the expression you want or something like that. I think I've heard a lot of other artists, say something like that. So, yeah, you just have those days. You just got to fight through them.
Yeah, completely understand. Well, we've talked about Beowulf, Anzac Legend, and many more of your arts, of your work that you've done over the years. Can you tell some of the viewers where to find you and your art and your comics?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the comic shop stocks all my stuff. You've got Cut Down and Time Fault.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and Blue Sage. So there are 3 books that I did with Roger Stitz, and he wrote those. And Roger and I have got a little deal going that if, like for Only Indie, for example, he's I'm on Only Indie, and so is Roger. So I just advertise the books that I did alone, and he has his own section where he has Cut Down, Time Fault, and Blue Sage. So I don't go in competition with him there. He that's all his stuff, so he can have that. But I sell those on the comic shop and at conventions. Yeah, I think that's the only 2 places, own Indian comic shop. I did submit things to that pop-up shop in Melbourne, but I haven't heard anything about what's happened there. And there's a thing in Ballarat, the Ballarat comic shop. Yes. You know about that? I've sent an email to that person.
Yeah, I'm trying to get more information, so I don't talk out of term, so I'm not saying stuff that's not right.
Okay, so I'll shut up.
No, if you know more than me, go for your life.
No, I won't say any more than that, but apparently the comic shop there is considering dropping all their American or foreign comics and just going Australian indie.
Yeah, sounds awesome.
Will be great. Yeah. So hopefully that goes ahead, and just keep your eye out for that, everybody. If that goes ahead, there's another outlet for you. Yeah, that's it. That's where you get my stuff. Yeah, that's it. That's where you get my stuff.
Yeah, amazing. Oh, awesome. Well, now viewers know where to find you. I did want to wrap up this amazing talk with you, Dave, with a few of the questions that I ask everyone on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically, what is your favorite thing about the Australian indie comic community?
The community. Oh well, majority of people very friendly and easygoing and very approachable. That's it. Everyone's friendly and everyone has their moments, I suppose, but generally everyone's very good and supportive, which is great.
And has there been like a really one of your favorite things to come out of it? Has it just been the community or the shows in general that Shane has put on?
Yeah, I
think one is my favorite thing that's come out of it.
Well, so, I do look forward to all the shows that we've got through the week. As I was mentioning before the show, there's I think about 4 shows now, isn't there?
There's 4 now, yeah. And there's Chinwag, this show, AusComX, the Friday Drink and Draw, and Sunday Spotlight.
Yeah, and it's great. I tune in to every one of them, and I look forward to every one of them. They're fantastic. And I just want to, at the end, Lee or Pete are going, oh, we'll have to start winding up. I'm going, don't wind up, keep going, keep going. I don't want you to stop. I'm happy to, I'll top my glass up and sit in for another hour. Oh, I really enjoy it.
I do too. I think it's really nice, these shows. You can definitely put them on in the background, and us creatives are always working on something, and I think it's definitely, I don't know if any of the viewers can agree with this, but it's nice to have something in the background while you're working. Yeah. And what better thing than indie Australian comic creators?
That's right. So, I do exactly the same thing. I'm drawing away. I watched Lee and Hayden last night, and again, while I was working today, I put them on again and listened to the show again. I've probably listened to who was it? Peter Wilson and Spedsy the other night 2 or 3 times. Yep. I know, just put it on in the background. I'm writing,
this one, Dave?
This one, yeah. Oh well. I'll probably have to watch this one to see what a blooming egg I've made of myself and bloody galah of myself.
You're fine. Yeah. Well, what's one thing that you would like to see more of in the future, I guess, in this community in general, I guess?
What more of? I'd like to see more people getting involved with the comics, the community. There's so many thousands of creators out there, and there's only a small fraction of them as members of the comics community. I'd like to see more people, and more people come onto the show, come back for the show, watch the show, be involved, and I'd like to see more people interacting with each other. There were times years ago when I was trying to interact with people, and I found it very hard. People were actually having YouTube movies, and I'd watch them and comment and whatever, and I'd get no reaction, and there'd be no follow-on. And I really, because I live out on my own, I'm out in the bush up here in the Mallee. I don't have any other artists. We had a Mildura zine fair last year, and I thank goodness for the people in Melbourne who came up, Ben Hutchins and that crowd down there, they're from Squishface. They came up and filled the room. We had about 20 people selling their zines. I was the only local. So that's how I am. I'm the only one here. I'm a bit like Lee Chalker in Townsville. I'm on my Pat Malone. So this gives me the opportunity to meet more people, interact with you. And I really love this, and I'd like more people to be involved with it, and so I can meet more people, because everyone I've met through the comic show have been really pleasant, nice people, and I'd like them to get to know them more. Yeah, great.
Absolutely. I think you being up in the Mallee, I think you're a trendsetter, Dave. I think you're marching to your own beat up there. I love it. And same for Chalker as well. Good on you both. But yeah, so if there's any viewers tonight, I mean, jump on board, and if you're a creator too, then maybe you two can be on the show. But for all our viewers, if you don't already know, like Shane did say beforehand, we do have 4 shows. One on Tuesday, which is the Chinwag, tonight on Wednesdays. I'm only a fortnightly host, so our other host is Morgan Quaid, so you definitely have to tune in next week. Fridays are Drink and Draw, which is our all-time favorite, especially for me. So you have to tune in for that one as well. That one's a crowd favorite, as well as Sunday Spotlights as well. So you have to tune in for those ones as well. But otherwise, Dave, it has been an absolute pleasure. Have you got anything to add, Shane?
Yes, I do. I'll do the normal thing, and I got to go on the right page here. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It's very important. That helps us get to more people. It gets you notified when the next video is on, so you don't miss it. So yeah, don't forget to do those things. That would be awesome. And yeah, so is that the show?
I think so. Unless you've got anything to add, Dave. Otherwise, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Don't wind me up again. You won't stop me.
Everybody enjoys the sound of your voice, Dave. But yeah, just to reiterate, everyone, you can find Dave's stuff on the ComX shop. So head on over there if you're interested. It's definitely worth a read. But otherwise, thanks for tuning in, guys. I'm looking forward to seeing more shows this week, the Drink and Draw and the Sunday Spotlight. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in a fortnight. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thank you very much. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Pleasure, Dave.
Check out comx.cx for all things ComX and find out what ComX is all about. We hope you enjoyed the show.